Daf Yomi, Tractate Menachot, page 99. We were in the middle of something. We were talking about the table, the showbread. Let's see. Let's start from like 2 lines from the bottom. But the Gemara replies, but according to your reasoning, the last question applies according to the one who said that the tables were positioned from east to west as well. Where would one place the table built by Moses? If the 10 tables of Solomon occupy the entire 20 cubits of the inner half of the sanctuary, how could Moses' table be placed in the middle of the 10 tables? Rather, do you maintain that there was only one row of tables? It was not so. There were two. They were set in 2 rows with the table of Moses between the rows. Therefore, there was room for all the tables, and it was also possible for the high priest to pass by them. Okay, that's what we're talking about. That was the last part of yesterday's discussion. Daf's discussion. And now we're on the top of 99a, top of the page with the words Bishlam. Bishlam Laman Domer Tzafim V'Darim Shapir. The Gemara continues, granted according to the one who said the tables were positioned along with the width of the sanctuary from north to south. It works out well. According to this opinion, there was enough room on the east and the west of the table for the 2 priests arranging the new loaves to stand on one side of the table, and for the 2 priests removing the old loaves to stand on the other side. Elaman Yamar Mizrach Umarav Mekdei Shulchan Mikdei Shulchan Kama Mashuch Ben HaKotel Shte Amot Umechza Ve'amadidei Ushte Amos Umechza Dibeni Beni. But according to the one who said the tables were positioned along the length of the sanctuary from east to west, in which case the priests arranging and removing the showbread would stand at the north and south of the table. This is difficult. Now, consider how much space was taken up by the tables. How far was the table removed from the northern wall of the sanctuary? It was 2.5 cubits away from the wall. And this is the space necessary for the 2 priests to pass. And to this one must add 1 cubit for the width of the northern row of tables itself, and another 2.5 cubits that were between the northern row of 5 tables and Moses' table, as space for 2 priests to pass is required here as well. The Ama Ushte Amos Umechza de Beni Beni the Amadidei Ishtekach de Ka'achil Shulchan Palgad Yamasa Vedaron. The Gemara continues to calculate the area occupied by the tables, and then one must add 1 cubit for the width of the table of Moses, and 2.5 cubits that were between Moses' table and the southern row of tables, and another cubit for the width of the southern row itself. This totals 10.5 cubits, according to which it is found that the table occupies half a cubit in the south of the sanctuary, although the table is supposed to be entirely in the north of the sanctuary. Mi savrit shulchan Moshe ba'adaihu haviyetiv lo dimad leile umenachle umisarte lehu lelidhu purta getam le'yoshev niraboy. The Gemara answers, do you maintain that the table of Moses resided together with the other 10 tables, meaning parallel to them? It was not so. The table of Moses was suited to the west of the other tables in the space corresponding to the space between the two rows of tables, and its width should not be added to the width of the two rows of Solomon's tables. All the tables were, therefore, situated in the north of the sanctuary. Since the table was built on terrain that sloped downward from west to east, this means that the table of Moses was raised above the tables of Solomon. The table of Moses was placed to the west, and the tables of Solomon were lowered slightly toward the east. Solomon's tables, therefore, appeared in relation to Moses' table as a student who sits on a lower level before his teacher. Tana Rabbanan esara shulchanos asa Shlomo v'lo hayu mesadrin ela al shel Moshe shenemar be'et hashulchan asher alav lechem apanim zahav. The sages taught in Brights that Solomon built 10 tables that were situated in the sanctuary, in addition to Moses' table. But the priests would arrange the showbread only upon the table of Moses. This is derived from a verse, as it is stated, and Solomon made all the vessels that were in the house of the Lord, the golden altar and the table upon which the showbread was, of gold. 1 Kings 7:48, indicating that the showbread was placed on only one table. Esther Menachot Likewise, Solomon built 10 candelabra, but the priests would kindle the lamps only on the candelabrum of Moses. This is derived from a verse, as it is stated, and they burn unto the Lord every morning and every evening burnt offerings and sweet incense. The showbread also they arrange in order upon the pure table, and the candelabrum of gold with its lamps to burn every evening. 2 Chronicles 13:11. The singular form indicates that the lamps were kindled on only one candelabrum. Rabbi Eliezer ben Shamua Omer, Al kulam hoyu mesadrin, שנאמר את השולחנות ועליהם לחם הפנים. ובחולון היו מדליקים שנאמר עשר ונוירויס ונויסהו דבערם כמשפט לפני הדביר זהב סגור. Rabbi Eliezer ben Shamua says they would arrange the showbread upon all the tables as it is stated, and Solomon made all the vessels that were in the house of God, the golden altar as well, and the tables upon which was the showbread. 2 Chronicles 4:19. The plural form indicates that the showbread was arranged on all the tables, and they would kindle the lamps on all the candelabra, as it is stated in the subsequent verse, and the candelabra with their lamps, which they should burn according to the ordinance before the sanctuary of pure gold. 2 Chronicles 4:20. Rabbi Yossi bar Yehuda Omer, lo hayu mesadrin ela al shel Moshe, ela ma ani mekayem et hashulchanot asher lehem lechem apanim zahav, ela shloish hashulchanos shehem b'mikdash. שניהם היו באולם ומתבנים לפסח הבייס, אחד של כסף ואחד של זהב. Rabbi Yossi, son of Yehuda, says they would arrange the showbread only upon the tables of Moses. Rather, how do I realize the meaning of the verse? How do I realize the meaning of the verse? And on the tables upon which was the showbread of pure gold. 2 Chronicles 4:19-20. These are the 3 tables that were in the temple, of which were 2 that were situated in the entrance hall of the sanctuary, on the inside near to the entrance to the temple, meaning near the entrance to the sanctuary. One of these tables was made of silver, and the other one was made of gold. Al shel kesef nosei lechem apani michnisaso. Yal shel zahav yitziaso shemani b'kodesh v'lo maridin. Echad shel zahav bifnim she'alav lechem apanim tamid. On the table of silver, the priest places the new showbread that has been baked before its entrance into the sanctuary, so that the loaves may cool a little from the heat of the oven. And when the old showbread is removed from the showbread table, it is placed on the table of gold upon its exit from the sanctuary until the frankincense is burned on the altar. The reason the showbread is placed on a silver table before it is brought into the sanctuary and on the gold one when it is removed is that one elevates to a higher level in matters of sanctity, and one does not downgrade. Since it is set upon the gold showbread table all week, it cannot be downgraded to a silver table upon its removal. The Gemara concludes, the third of the 3 tables is the one table of gold inside the sanctuary, upon which the showbread is always found. Uminalan de moridin amar Rabbi Dabakrav Yakum Moshe Samishka V'Yitein Es Adonai V'Yosef Es Korashav V'Yitein Es V'Rechav V'Yabayakim Es Avudam. The Gemara asks, and from where do we derive that one is not downgraded in matters of sanctity? Rabbi Yehuda Nasi said, this is derived from the verse, as the verse states, and Moses erected the tabernacle and he laid its sockets and set up its boards and put in its bars and erected its pillars. Exodus 40:18. This teaches that once Moses, who was at a greater level of sanctity than the rest of the people, began to work of erecting the tabernacle, he alone completed it. Uminalan Dima'alin Ra'achbar Yaakov Damar Kra et Machtos Echotoim Ha'ilo Enam Shoisam Yasua Oisam Riku Epachim Tzipuel Mizbeach Yikrivum Lefnei Hashem Vayikdashu Vayul Leos Lefnei Yisrael Nitchil Tashmish Mizbeach Yachshav Guba Shel Mizbeach. The Gemara asks, and from where do we derive that one elevates to a higher level in matters of sanctity? Achabar Yaakov said, this is derived from a verse, as the verse states, with regard to the coal pans of the men of Korach's assembly, in which they burn incense before they were consumed by a fire. The coal pans of these men who have sinned at the cost of their lives, and let them be made beaten plates for a covering of the altar, for they have become sacred because they were brought before the Lord, that they may be assigned to the children of Israel. Numbers 17, verse 3. Initially, the coal plans had the status of the articles used in the service of the altar, as they contained the incense, and now that they have been made into a covering for the altar, their status has been elevated to that of the altar itself. Asher Shabbat Samta Be'aran Tan Rabbi Yosef Melamed Sheluchos V'Shivei Luchos Munachim Yoim. Mikan Etam Milchacham Shishachach Tamudoi Machmas Onso Shein Ragim Bo Minag Bizayon. Having mentioned the principle that one is not downgraded in matters of sanctity, the Gemara cites a related issue. The verse states, at that time the Lord said to me, hew for yourself 2 tablets of stone like these, and I will write on the tablets the words that were on the first tablets, which you broke, and you put them in the ark. Deuteronomy 10, 1-2. Rabbi Yosef teaches a braita that this verse teaches that both the tablets of the covenant and the pieces of the broken tablets are placed in the ark. One should learn from here that with regard to a Torah scholar who has forgotten his Torah knowledge due to circumstances beyond his control, for example illness, one may not behave toward him in a degrading manner. Although the first tablets were broken, it is prohibited to treat them with disrespect to their sanctity. A Torah scholar who forgot the Torah knowledge he once possessed is likened to these broken tablets. And now, for a simon, for what is to follow. The Gemara notes a mnemonic, which is a simon, for the following three statements of Reish Lakish, which are all related to the concept stated by Rabbi Yosef. One who caused dereliction of the Torah study for the sake of a mitzvah, a Torah scholar who sinned, and a Torah scholar who forgot his studies. Amar Reish Lakish says, Pamim, sometimes. Okay, that's the end of this Amar.